Saturday 13th of August 1988, and the scenery is being put in place. The props have nearly all arrived and the makeup is being applied. No dress rehearsal though for this is the real thing, the Astle Park Traction Engine Rally at Chelford in Cheshire. Unbeknown to many though, possibly the last show of all after 23 successful years of pomp and circumstance. The Astle Park Rally has for years been as much a part of Cheshire country life as the making of Cheshire cheese. The organisers know the ropes, and whilst the usual discussions take place as to whether Old Faithful can be put next to Sophie, and if William V will share with George V, it's all going to be all right on the night.
They change their mind as often as change the bloody shirt.
13 fair organs, 37 assorted traction engines and rollers, 37 miniatures, 72 tractors, 55 commercial vehicles and countless others that go brum brum or put put make this the great traditional spectacle it is, and they will have come miles just to be there. It's a fascination that starts young, and whilst junior interests come maybe with a more modest Mammoth, no doubt it won't be long before he'll be charging around in his own burrel. Showing off is what it's partly about. Keeping people like Brasso in business. Like the solstice at Stonehenge, they've come back year after year, sharing facts and figures and news on new restoration schemes. The whole event full of characters.
That's right, it's totally disorganised. If you came here for the first time, you wouldn't know what it was all about, but after 15 or 16 years, you know just about how you fit in. But there's very little organisation. But it's, in a sense, it's subtle. I suppose you could say that the organisation is exceedingly subtle, if there is such a thing as organisation.
The big show-offs are of course the showman engines and organs. Engines like Maid Marian, a Foster Showman's tractor built in 1910. Here generating power to drive a fair organ, her traditional function. Others include the massive William V, another scenic showman's engine, this one by Burrell. Dolphin, built in 1925, is owned by enthusiast Frank Lithgow. Then there's Joanne, an Aveling Porter built in 1918 and has taken some 8 years to restore. And a regular visitor to Astle Park, Andrew Barber's Stanley Monarch, another Burrell of 1900 vintage. This Foden, Elizabeth, spent her working life in Cheshire and dates from 1910. This large ploughing drum belongs to Master. Master is in the heavy metal category, being a Fowler ploughing engine type BB1, a magnificent specimen. Today owned by Mr. Metcalfe of Sutton, she spent most of her working life in Wiltshire. Talking to those involved, it's possible to get a feeling for the almost romantic eccentricity that makes steam for many their first love.
Because I've been interested in traction engines from being about so high. Probably about my earliest recollection of an engine of any sort was a compound Aveling that was owned by Cheshire County Council. It was driven by a man called Howarth. And I can remember as a little lad sitting in the bunker, going up and down the road, quite happy for many hours on end. Later I can remember a Foden traction engine that was owned by George Lee's father, thrashing down all Lostock. And it was that I was just attracted to them as a kid. And later on as a teenager, there weren't many engines about then, and they had gone, mainly for scrap. Unfortunately, round here there were very few engines left, mainly because of the close proximity of Lancashire steel, where they all were cut up for scrap and melted down. And I suppose it was in the 50s, when I was about 19, 20, when the early traction engine hobby started, that I thought, well, there is a dim chance one day I might be able to own one. And that's where it really all began. Hard to say why, because I've been involved with other things. Before I had an engine, I had a vintage car. But steam really was always my first love.
What do you think so special about Astle Park?
Astle Park is an unusual rally. I think the thing that makes it, so far as the public is concerned, is its setting. Its setting is superb, and it's in close proximity to some large centres of population. And it gives, for the public, at modest price, a total day out.
Keeping 30-plus boilers aglow and on the boil is the work of 2 water tenders. They move in and out of the crowds and exhibits, continually refreshing all assembled. Many will hardly turn a wheel once they're installed and on show, but will most certainly keep in steam. Big Jim's timber tractor is a Foden also. Other than steam though, the STG's power comes from a diesel engine and a 1941 5-cylinder drive. Also on hand is this ex-Pickford Scammell, built slightly later in 1944. Tiger is a Sentinel steam wagon of 1924 and saw an active and working life in Aberdeen and other locations before being just too much to resist for the current owner, Mr. Clare of Haywood.
Yeah, I heard about it, and I'm one of these people. If I see something I like, no matter what, I buy it and then I stick with it. I don't change things. So I've had it 10 years now, and it's been stripped down once or twice in that time. But I make no claims to great mechanical skill, anything like that.
Well, why have it then?
Because there is nothing like driving a Sentinel on the road. You can have your Bentleys and your Rolls, whatever vehicle, but there's nothing like a Sentinel on the road. But next year I'm taking it from here down to Bristol. With the lot behind, the caravan behind the lot, and I'm going to stay down there for a few months.
The weekend is warming up, and as smoke and smells waft across the countryside, the familiar voice of John Knott beckons action in the rally's arena.
Well, if we've no visitors from overseas, there are 2 policewomen the other side of the arena. Go, Rouse, Avanti, Mouse, hello! And it looks as though Montevideo, South America, is going very gently on Joanne at this end. There's not a shadow of doubt, madam, you'll have muscles like footballs after this. You're not going to Montevideo, you're going round that fire. Beautiful, beautiful. There's a woman policeman over there out of control. Don't cry for me, Argentina, keep going.
The Astle Park Rally is not just about participation, it's also about demonstration. Though no safety guards here, the scream of an agricultural blade amidst a collection of traditional farm and country crafts. No less than 72 tractors to line up too. Nearly 40 years of agricultural power heritage is represented here with examples from as far away as Ayrshire in Scotland. Many of these Fordsons, Internationals, Fergusons and others restored like other exhibits here today from virtually scrap by dedicated owners with their own special interests. Every one is someone's pride and joy, and if Series A Land Rovers are your choice, there could be a prize to be won in the commercial section. This is a 1939 Leyland FK8 Cub fire engine. This a Leyland Titan, no doubt looking for a seafront it won't find in deepest Cheshire. And here a Bedford 1950 ambulance, everyone hopes won't have any customers. The business end of the commercials must be represented here by these proud Leyland hippos. Whilst there are plenty of exhibits at the glossy end of travel, everyone to be judged and assessed. The Astle Park Rally, in its 23rd year, is as proud an affair as it's always been. That is, since being built up over a period from when traction engine renovation was in its infancy. The event has raised thousands of pounds for charity and has been arranged by the local parish hall committee, not just as a rally of engines, but in the spirit of a traditional country fair in an ideal setting. In the spirit of any country fair, darkness falls and that almost mystical atmosphere of the shadowy showman's encampment with contrasting bright lights and colours moves the rally into a summer's night. It's Sunday morning, and with or without a hangover, the show goes on. It'll have to keep running all day, so machinery owners keep a keen eye on their charges. The smells and sounds are certainly different on this side of the showground, though they're just as proud as their friends across the way with their impressive mobiles. All that's missing here are the nameplates that would give each machine its own identity. However, individual extras and contraptions do provide that added presence. It's all a little laid back here, whilst the smog and exploding noises are still part of the affair that man continues to carry on even with the most humble of machines. For others, Sunday just wouldn't be Sunday without the papers. It appeals to all ages, and its variety makes it one of the largest of its type. The magic mixture of the Astle Park Rally is difficult to describe, but as they say, if they could put it in a can, someone somewhere would make a fortune.
It's all about people and relationships and talking to folk. I mean, we are crazy, and these many of these folks can relate to oddities, can't they?
So how are you getting home this evening? How far have you got to go?
6 miles, and that's an hour and a half before you ask.
Before they go, though, a last lingering look at some of the engines that attended the 1988 rally. So it's time for the journey home, and once more Burrell DCC number 4037 heads for Norley. Whatever the sentiments, somewhere in the background there's an element of sadness as everyone leaves for home this year. For those past year's parting exchanges of see you next year may not unfortunately be able to be fulfilled. Onto the scene now comes enthusiast Simon Boak, an experienced rally organiser who has faith in a future for the Astle Park show.
Well, we were very disappointed when we heard the traction engine rally at Astle Park was going to finish. I was in contact with Mr. Frank Lithgow, and we thought it would be a good idea if we contacted the owners of the park with a view to continuing the event there. Well, we've managed obviously to reach agreement with Henshaw's. They've told us what their requirements are, and we're obviously able to meet the standards they wanted. Well, we're hoping to support Henshaw's as much as possible. Obviously, we hope the event will be successful financially, and Henshaw's involvement will be that they'll receive a substantial donation from us.
So you see the show growing from strength to strength?
Oh yes, I think so. Obviously a lot depends on the weather, but we'll make sure that it's well organised and there's plenty to see and plenty happening throughout the afternoon.
What's the real recipe for making it a success?
Well, I think, first of all, obviously you've got to have a good cross-section of traction engines, i.e. showman's engines, ploughing engines, general purpose engines, supported with a selection of vintage tractors, stationary engines and fair organs. But I also think it's quite important to have a continuous arena entertainment, i.e. escapologists, motorcycle stunt teams, etc. Things like heavy horses, children's sideshows, Punch and Judy. Then, of course, the trade stands, they're quite important because I know a lot of people who come to the shows, the men go to look at the traction engines and the ladies like to look around the trade stands. So I think it's just a cross-section, although it's called a traction engine rally, it's a general outdoor spectacular.
The pomp and circumstance rolls on.